Another mistake that I've seen people make at work that has held them back, and it's also something that I can sort of relate to back early in my career, is when people compartmentalize too much and they show up at work and they say, this is me, the work me, but you don't get to see or know or understand the personal me.
Welcome to Leadership and Motivation Unleashed, practical leadership for modern workplaces. A podcast where we explore actionable strategies to help you lead with confidence, build cohesive teams, and create thriving workplace cultures.
We're here for the career-focused professionals climbing the corporate ladder, the managers navigating team dynamics, and the leaders shaping the future of work. In each episode, we'll break down challenges, share practical advice, and leave you with insights you can apply today.
I'm Patrick Law, your co-host, a Gulf War veteran with over 26 years of corporate leadership experience in banking and payments, blending precision and innovation with a tad of passion to solve big challenges.
And I'm Rachel Book, a C-suite trusted advisor and an HR leader with 2 decades of experience at Fortune 50 companies, specializing in building people-first strategies and driving impactful talent solutions.
Together, Rachel and I, we combine operational expertise and transformational leadership to bring you real-world advice on leadership, workplace culture, team dynamics, career growth, and anything else that we may want to delve into.
So, if you're ready to take your career and leadership skills to the next level, you're in the right place. Let's get started.
Welcome, everybody. Patrick Law and Rachel Book. This is our leadership podcast. This episode, we're going to talk about mistakes that hold back your career. I have experienced some that I feel held back my career. And you know what? Some of those mistakes were actually good mistakes. They turned out okay because you don't know what the future holds. It's kind of like the couple of stories y'all heard out of 9/11 where people missed their flight. Like some things happen in your life that in the moment you're like, why'd that happen? Oh, I missed out. Oh, I shouldn't have done that. But a couple of months or years down the road, like, man, that was so awesome. It worked out that way. And then there are some that are like, you undid the pin in a hand grenade and dropped it at your feet. And you probably deserved what came next. So I've witnessed a few of those and I've experienced them myself. So we'll just jump in and let's give a couple of examples and then Rachel will give hers and we'll do our usual dialogue. So if I were to pick on a few, particularly in the beginning of my career, and for those of you who know me or the people who don't know me, but you've been listening to this podcast, and Rachel and I have seen our numbers go up steadily over the last couple months. So thank you to everybody listening. I haven't thanked everybody in a while. So thank you for that. So even if you know me or don't know me, the following will make sense. In my early years of my career, I was a wild Mustang. I did not want to be saddled and I did not want to be ridden. I wanted to streak across the clean, fresh air and grass of the prairies on my own. I don't need anybody. I know better than everybody. Very dumb, like young and dumb. And my confidence was bigger than my brain. And having a balance of brain and courage and confidence is important. I just didn't know how. And I wasn't listening to people. And I don't necessarily mean people were being direct with me. I was missing signals that people were sending me about my behaviors that I should have been heeding. And the details of this are relevant, but I was called into the president's office of the Moneymaker group at Affiliated Computer Services. And Moneymaker was the brand name for our debit and ATM portfolio. You can probably Google Moneymaker and see the old logo. It was a guy standing, a cartoon guy standing at an ATM. And the president called me into her office and the meeting started with a very foul look on her face and said, "What is your agenda? Why are you here?" And it wasn't a polite ask. And even then, and I was probably 18 months into my career, I thought it was a help me question. Oh, she wants to help me. She wants to know what I'm up to. She wants to know what I want out of life. So I started telling her that is not what she meant. She was insinuating that I was being nefarious in my actions. And I must have been up to something. And she pushed a book across the table at me called The Prince by Machiavelli. It is not a story of goodness. It is a story of what I would consider not so great politics. Where she was off a little bit, I'm not calling her out. She was smart. Where she was off a little bit, to play the game she thought I was playing, you'd have to know how to play it, which made it worse. I had stumbled into landmines with politics in the office because I'm so focused on just climbing the hill. I wasn't paying attention to who else was climbing the hill, how they were climbing the hill, and why they were climbing the hill. At that time, and everybody, I still fight that to this day, I see climbing the hill as a straight line. I'll chew through the wall to get to the other side. I will not sit back and look at the wall and say, well, if I had a rope or if I had a shovel, I could burrow underneath it. No, I will expend mass calories to punch a hole in the wall to get to the other side. Some would say, well, it could be effective. Or am I just burning calories and energy and creating chaos that doesn't need to be created to achieve the same goal that the others are executing the mission with? Maybe I think it's slow. Maybe I don't think it's right. But who made me corporate God? Nobody. But as a 27-year-old with a background in soldiering and flying, I didn't know the difference. And I believe those moments early on in my career put me afoul relationally with people and made people like the president of the Moneymaker division of ACS think I was up to something I really wasn't. And like Rachel said in another podcast, if you listen to it, we all fill gaps. And she was telling herself a story about me that actually wasn't true. I actually read the book she gave me. I read The Prince cover to cover, and I was like, ooh. So she actually helped me out by doing that. It wasn't a fun conversation. You guys heard me. I was so dull. I thought she was trying to help me. She was that was her way of punching me in the mouth. Like, stop acting like this. Behaviors can derail your career. And if you don't listen overtly or covertly or consciously or subconsciously, or your filters aren't open to course correction, you will derail your career. How you get along does matter. That doesn't mean be liked. You don't have to be liked. There's a lot of people in my past that don't like me. Did I end their careers? Did I impede their careers? Did I misinterpret, sadly, and accidentally impact someone's career? I don't know. Name a reason why somebody doesn't like you. Maybe the people don't like the look on my face. I mean, not the whole world isn't built to like you or me or Rachel or everybody. If your filters aren't open to change, to get along as a team, to work together to achieve. Now think about that. I was a soldier. What do they teach you as a soldier? There is no army of one. The Army is a team. The Marine Corps is a team. Law enforcement agencies are a team. And when the sugar hits the fan, you better have each other's back. Something happened to me along the way from all that great teaming that I was taught and experienced in combat and aviation and no battles won alone. Something happened on the way to corporate America that I thought I had to be aggressively straight line and ignore everything around me. And everything can be the body politic. It can be different people's skill sets. For the longest time, I saw everybody as the same. Everybody wants to be the CEO. Everybody can go 900 miles an hour. Everybody can be at the office 15 hours a day. I was inappropriately black and white. And missing those nuances and those body language cues and just being thoughtful and not just focused on my own mission orientation and taking the hill created problems for me. And if I didn't work on that in years 2 through 8, which I did somewhat on purpose and somewhat on accident, I wouldn't have the career I did. Now, if you fast forward if I learned some lessons sooner, Would I be the CEO of SpaceX? I don't think the answer is yes. Would I have made more money over my career? Would I have had more chances to gain corporate experiences, life experiences? If I sit too long and think about it, Rachel and audience, it's actually a little scary how much I'm unaware of that I missed, because in someone's head, we're like, well, he's too wild ass, or his mouth is too big, or we need more of a soft touch here, not a hammer. Because for a long time, and maybe in some circles, I'm still known as the guy that will chew through the wall with a hammer and burn a lot of unnecessary energy. And this is a cliche dialogue, but work smarter, not harder. I didn't figure that out for a long time. I thought the work harder part was the point. I was a blunt instrument. So for the listeners, maybe that's not who you are. Because we've talked about on other pods, life experiences make us all different, not better or worse than each other. We're just different. And some of it's luck. So how much did I miss because my filters weren't open enough to take feedback from people about my professional behaviors and thoughts and my personal behaviors in the office? Don't allow yourself to be derailed because you think you're smarter than everybody around you. Now, by the way, I never thought I was. I'm famously on record saying I'm never the smartest one in the room, but I'm going to outwork everybody. I will stay the longest. I will try the hardest. I will say yes to everything to learn as much as I can. I am insanely curious about topics that maybe I shouldn't be curious about, that may look like I'm distracted, but I'm actually fortifying my career briefcase. Everyone, here's a black and white comment, and I'll pass it to Rachel. Everyone should be filters wide open for feedback on your interpersonal behaviors for your blind spot awareness. We all have blind spots in our behaviors. We all have blind spots in our capabilities and skills that maybe our brains are saying, I don't have a blind spot. I could be good at that, or I am good at that. When in fact, maybe you are good at that, but your version of good at something could be impacting the rest of the team, prohibiting faster forward momentum or more quality forward momentum. It's not always about fast, but forward momentum. That's a career inhibitor, because if you can't play well with others, then you can't play. And that will hold you back on the lattice or the ladder, left, right, up, down. So keep your filters open. Be okay with blind spots. Listen for them. Oh, I didn't know I was doing that. Or I didn't know, that's something I need to work on. And if anyone passes a book across the desk about Machiavelli, don't take it as a good thing.
We pick our topics based on what we imagine is on the minds of many, but we are not mind readers. So please use our form, which we'll link for you in the show notes, to suggest additional topics we should consider, request to be a guest on our show, or give us constructive criticism, which will make our podcast more valuable for many. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. You were given a gift, right, by that leader. And obviously she saw potential in you, or she just would have fired you and not tried, right, to enlighten you about those blind spots, right? There's always going to be different personalities in a group. And, some people are the exact opposite, where they're so conflict averse that they won't go out of their comfort zone even a little bit. And then they might be perceived as not ambitious, not motivated, not creative, not innovative, right? And so the mark of a good leader is to put people in the right seats where their strengths and their characteristics will play the important role. And most importantly, to communicate that to everyone so they understand, right? Imagine if your leader had said to the group, hey, Patrick is always known for being the one who can get through a brick wall. I'm giving him this task because that's what we need. And so when he comes at you like this, please everyone know that that is good for all of us. That's good for the business as part of the strategic plan. So I think messaging people, right, about what the purpose of all of this is really key. But I can relate to that. I can relate to that personally. I've done similar things throughout my career, and I've seen other people also lose friends and gain enemies by just saying, this is me, this is my path, and I'm not assessing whether what I'm trying to do is equally important or apparent to other people who are also on this journey. So that's a great example of a mistake. I'm going to give a different example. Another mistake that I've seen people make at work that has held them back. And it's also something that I can sort of relate to back early in my career, is when people compartmentalize too much and they show up at work and they say, this is me, the work me, but you don't get to see or know or understand the personal me, right? So when my kids were little, I think I've shared this earlier, I used to work part-time, but I carried a full-time job, but I did it in part-time hours. And my deal with my employer was, if it doesn't work, tell me to go home. But what that meant was when I was on work time, I was every single second I was productive. I wasn't, chatting with people in the hallways. I wasn't going to after hours networking events. Very often I wasn't traveling on the trips that everyone was at, because I'm here to do my work, get as much done as I can in as short of a time as possible, and then spend the rest of the time with my family. And that definitely impacted the relationships that I was able to make at work. Now, I would still make that same decision for that period of time in my life back then, because it was the right choice for me and for my family. But what I've also seen, and sometimes this is personality type, sometimes this is social awkwardness, sometimes this is, a philosophical approach to life, but sometimes people don't bring their whole selves to work, and they don't take the time to get to know people, and they don't inquire about other people's families, and they don't share what makes them them. They may not share if they're going through a hard time. They may not share if something really happy is going on in their life. And what that means is people only get to know you this much. And so they don't fully appreciate you. And it certainly holds people back from being able to get the work done, right? So you might say, well, what do you mean? I'm perfectly engaged. Everyone knows what I'm capable at work. I'm just not sharing with you the parts of my personality that make me who I am. Well, what that means is, people will respond to your emails, right? People will interact with you and they'll communicate with you, and they might even enjoy you. They might appreciate your smarts and your achievements and your ability to get things done. But the level of relationship when you're in, again, I hate to use this analogy because I know military is very, very different than what we do in corporate. But when you're in the trenches with someone, it may be an all-nighter figuring out a way to fix a software bug, or it might be an all-nighter preparing for an IPO, or being stuck in the airport when you miss a flight back from a conference with colleagues. That's when real relationships are built. And that's where you develop that social capital that helps you gain access to opportunity, and also be able to call in some favors, right? Where you can understand at a deeper level where you each contribute, where your strengths, where your interests are. And it may be easier for you to find someone to build a team in the future, to, chime in for a promotion. And that doesn't mean you're getting special treatment because people like you, but they know more aspects of you than they would just by going through the regular motions of doing the work.
Taking all that in, we could actually probably do a 10-hour podcast on this topic. Because if you combine our experiences year-wise, we'd be retired by now. Because our years together, it's a significant number. So if you imagine all the interpersonal things we've witnessed and done ourselves, it's hundreds of thousands, I bet. Even micro experiences, not always big and meaty ones, but it's heavy to think about, like the potential for having been derailed, either one of us, by nefarious characters or stepping on a landmine we didn't see, which is the whole point of a landmine. But I guess I would tack on to some of this saying there's an ego thing that I think people choke on, men and women. Now, men are known for being ego-driven more than women. At least that's the way I came up. Men are more attached to their careers or identify more closely to their career versus a woman. But we all share pride. And I have witnessed men and women over the years of all levels of the organization get stuck holding on to being right or wrong to end themselves. So what hill is worth dying on is what I'll talk about next, and then Rachel can wrap us up here. I'm always talking about the hill. Take the hill. Is that a hill worth dying on? Now, many times through history, militarily, and as I've gotten older, I don't think any hill's worth dying on, for the record, just so everybody can hear that. And with the world on fire, while we're doing these broadcasts, whether it's Israel and Iran or Ukraine or all the other places that no one ever talks about, Africa. Like, I mean, for whatever reason, the world's killing itself again and again and again. And I know I use those action words, and for some people that may be a turnoff, but in corporate America or in the body politic of not-for-profits or law enforcement or military or wherever it is you work or whatever level you're on, there is something to be said about, can you lay your head on the pillow at the end of the night and feel good about what you did that day? And the what you did part could be a hill you're willing to die on. I choose to die on hills for others. I have put my career in jeopardy 50, 60 times, not an exaggeration, for the right reasons. Put my career in jeopardy 50, 60 times for the wrong reasons. I'd say I'm 50-50, right and wrong. The wrong side of that ledger is ego and pride. I'm right. Now, my first 15 years, I was usually wrong because I wasn't mature enough to know the difference. My last 12 to 15 years, I turned my energy level towards others. So if you want to say the first half of my career, I was selfish. The second half of my career, I am not as selfish, because everyone should be selfish a little bit. Like, don't listen to this and say, oh, I should do everything for others. Not that you're going to listen to me, but I'm just telling you, don't go too hard one way or the other. But for the most part, if I'm going to see a hill, I'm going to die on it. It's going to be for someone else or for groups of others. Those others could be clients. They could be a vendor. They could be a partner. They could be my employees. They could be a peer. A couple times in my career, it's been for a boss, where my boss's boss was hunting my boss. And I had a decision to make. Is defending my current boss to his boss or her boss worth getting swept up in that melee and it impacting my career? And there's been several times where the answer was yes. The boss's boss is wrong. And it takes real courage to face off against someone at that level. And you guys have heard my career. I've been operating in the upper atmosphere for a long time now. And the closer you get to the sun, your wings will melt. And if you don't know what that phrase means, look it up, because wings are made of wax, a lot of them. And what happens to wax in heat melts, and then you fall back to earth. So I made choices over my career to defend people who didn't know they even needed to be defended, which was inappropriate. Sometimes it wasn't an unhealthy hunt, meaning you better know who you work for and who you work with and who works for you, because you could derail the overall mission if you're not taking care of those people. And when I say taking care of, protecting their reputation, defending their mistakes, if it's a defensive position that you need to take for someone else's error, take it. I've lost track the last 15 years how many times I just said out loud in front of my boss or my boss's boss. Sometimes that boss's boss was the CEO of a Fortune 100 company. It was my fault. That was my mistake. Yeah, but it has Johnny's name on it. I'm like, but I told Johnny to do it, and this is the counsel I gave him. Now everybody needs to hear this. Maybe it wasn't the counsel I gave him. Maybe Johnny really did jack that up. But I've made so many mistakes in my career, I pay that forward. And I have been gifted grace more times than I deserve by people by the name of Joe Posey, Troy Cullen, Himanshu Patel. I would have run me over in the parking lot with some of the shit I did, but they didn't. And I watched them take it on the chin for me. Now they do it in a way that they're not completely made dirty by me, but they stand up. So for you listening out there, no matter what level of the organization you're in, stand up for the people around you. That's a hill worth dying on, even if it could potentially derail your career, because politically it would be easier to throw someone else under the bus than to own someone else's stuff. But you got to know who you work with, because if you're going to take that hill like that, it better be worth it. I have waved off meetings. I have not shown up two things. Some people would call it out of protest. I would say sometimes your career gets pushed in a direction, or a thing is happening and you get pushed in that direction where if you don't take a stand, many people will suffer from it because of it. And I think people are worthy of taking a little of your own flesh off on occasion. Stand up for people. Work is hard. Corporate America isn't easy, and it's quite cold. It needs people that will see a hill and be able to differentiate between should I die up there or should I not die on there on behalf of others? And here's the punchline of that. Because not everybody has the microphone. There's a lot of people on this train ride that are critically important to the train operating, but they're in cars behind you that may not be able to be heard to the conductor up front or the engineer up front. If you have a voice and you can make a difference for someone else, use it. And if that's a hill you're going to die on, I'd go down with that reputation. I think people are worth taking a stand. Now, the delineation between taking a stand to be seen and taking a stand because it means something is a very thin line. And you better be able to tell the difference. Don't run around dying on hills because you think it's going to get you recognized. That's not a reason to die on a hill. You die on the hill because it's going to make a difference for the company you work for, its shareholders, its investors, its revenue generating customers. And the most important part of that equation are the people who deliver all that stuff for those three entities. Those are hills worth dying on. If you're just a loudmouth bloviator who thinks you're funny or cute or trying to prove a point or to one up the people around you, you're already dead on that hill. You just don't know it yet. It hasn't come for you yet, but it will. Choose your targets. So derailing careers, sadly, maybe sometimes you have to. Last point, and I'll pitch it back to Rachel. There's a movie called Behind Enemy Lines. I don't know if you've seen it, Rachel. I know you're not big into that type of thing, but it's a movie about the Navy and the frustration that the naval aviators felt during the Yugoslavian issue of the late 90s. And they were providing overwatch because the body politic at the time was, well, America has that region under control. Bosnia, Herzegovina, remember all that when we had troops in Bosnia? Yes. Well, they made a movie called Behind Enemy Lines, and it was about the naval aviators' frustration. And the NATO commander and the American fleet commander, they weren't getting along because the admiral knew his boys wanted to actually get engaged and do good for the people on the ground. It was just for show. The flyovers were for show. And they were allowed to fly in this much space because some of the rules were you can't fly over here and take pictures. Well, they were doing bad things. And actually, it was a fiction movie, but it was non-fiction events. Like there was a lot of bad things happening on the ground that these aviators witnessed that they could have made a difference for the people on the ground, but it was all for show. One of these pilots, and here's where the fiction part, he was like, screw it, I'm going to fly over there. Well, he gets shot down behind enemy lines. It is an action movie. The admiral makes the bold decision to go in and get him anyway, because the NATO guy said, leave the pilot there. And the naval commander was like, that's my boy. What are you talking about? I'm not leaving a man behind. Well, so it's very action oriented. They get him out. Owen Wilson is the star. Gene Hackman's in it. It's a great movie. The movie ends with the Navy allowing him to retire, the admiral to retire honorably, but he lost his command and his career. And this shows him walking across the deck of the aircraft carrier with all of his sailors standing on the bows and on the upper decks, saluting him. And he just gives this gentle wave as he's walking away from his career. But I bet he slept good that night because that one aviator's life was worth it. Gave up a career, and he sent 25 guys in to go get him. 25 for one. I know the Israeli military operates that way. The American military operates that way. The British military operates that way. But how much of the world doesn't operate that way? Be courageous enough to give it up to help someone else. Now I'm being really bold and grandiose in that example, but there are micro versions of that in your career every day. Help someone. They're worth it. And if that derails your career and you can say, well, it was worth it, then good.
And speak up to defend your values and the values of the company when you see decisions being made or people being treated in ways that are in conflict with that.
I've said it 100 times. I'll say it 100 more. No one's going to remember where you worked, but they're going to remember how you treat them. And I believe that is there are purposeful mistakes and accidental mistakes, if you want to call them that could derail your career. Helping another person, you want to call that an accidental mistake, or helping a team of people succeed in the face of weird body politic? I don't know. I think it's worth the hill. And if it derails your career, it's more about them than it is you.
Couldn't agree more. We are out of time for this episode, but we've got a whole list from our experiences about mistakes that we've made, that we've seen other people make, that has really derailed careers. You know, sometimes they look back and say, hey, that was worth it. And sometimes it's like, wow, I wish I can tell people not to do that again. So we'll come back to you with another slew of these, you know, with the goal that some of you listening will say, ooh, better be careful not to do that. So thank you so much, as always, for joining us. If you'd like to share any experiences or ideas or topics that you'd like us to cover, please let us know, and we will be happy to add it to our list.
Good luck out there, guys.
Thanks for tuning in to Leadership and Motivation Unleashed. If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave us a rating and review. It only takes 1 minute, and it helps the show grow and reach more leaders like you in search of advice and motivation.
And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Please remember to share with your friends and family and coworkers, mentors, trusted advisors. This show is for everybody. See you next time.